now in this last-ditch effort. Well, let's lie to senior citizens and scare them to death with lies about Republicans. They want to take away your Social Security and Medicare and cut it. Okay, not a single Republican has ever said it. No Republican supports
Republicans want Medicare and Social Security to sunset. I'm not saying it's a majority. Let me give you, anybody who doubts it, contact my office. I'll give you a copy. I'll give you a copy of the proposal.
The President of the United States looked us right in the eye and mischaracterized what half the people in the chamber believe, what half the people in the chamber, according to him, want. It wasn't true.
It will be my objective to phase out Social Security, to pull it up by the roots and get rid of it.
Look at that face. Look at it. He's hurt even by the suggestion when Biden called him out.
If it was Matt Gaetz, I think that we do need reforms to Social Security and Medicare.
Trump suggesting that he is willing to make cuts to Social Security and Medicare.
Entitlements ever be on your plate?
At some point they will be. That's actually the easiest of all things.
But if you don't cut something in entitlements, you'll never really deal with the debt.
We'll be cutting.
We need to acknowledge all of the entitlements that we have. It's an issue. So the first thing you do is you change the retirement age.
Turning Medicare into a voucher system.
It's a really good start.
Our entitlement programs, there's no doubt that we have to wrestle this beast to the ground.
I think it's a very clear contrast. 1935, when the Social Security Act was written, 94 out of 95 Republicans voted against it. Mr. Landon ran in 1936 to repeal it. In August of 1960, when we tried to get it again, but this time for medical care, we received the support of one Republican in the Senate on this occasion.
Let me warn you, and let me warn the nation against the smooth evasion that says, of course we believe these things. We believe in Social Security.
In Social Security, you can keep all the promises that you made to seniors. You can, people that will retire within the next 20 years, no changes, but to give options to younger Americans to invest a portion of their Social Security in a private savings account.
We will do all of them. We will do more of them. We will do them better. And most important of all, the doing of them will not cost anybody anything.
I think we can replace the New Deal programs with a better deal.
They approve of Social Security benefits, so much so that they took them away from almost 1 million people.
Younger people are going to have to take a little less in benefits. Younger people are living longer, so we're going to have to adjust the age probably once again.
We can work on prioritizing defense spending, but that's really nibbling around the margins. Okay. If we really want to talk about the debt and spending, it's the entitlements program.
Social Security has nothing to do with the deficit.
Democrats are pointing to your own documents to tell Americans that you are preparing to cut entitlements.
The 4 top contenders for the House budget chairman, if Republicans win in November, all 4 of them told Bloomberg last week that they plan to use this debt crisis hostage technique to get things like Social Security and Medicare eligibility changes.
When asked to get specific, many of them invariably mention the need to cut spending on these retirement programs like Social Security and sometimes Medicare. Let's put up a list of some of the prominent Republicans floating this. There's Blake Masters, a Senate nominee in Arizona who recently made waves by calling for privatization of Social Security.
Entitlements are going to consume the budget.
There's Ron Johnson, the senator from Wisconsin facing re-election, who's called for shifting Social Security from a mandatory program to a discretionary program.
We ought to turn everything into discretionary spending.
What does that mean? It means Congress would have to reauthorize it every year or the funding would go away. There's Rick Scott, who several months ago proposed a plan that would put all federal laws on the chopping block every 5 years. Unless Congress passes a law to continue them, those programs would include Social Security.
An 11-point plan to rescue America. All federal legislation sunsets in 5 years. That would raise taxes on half of Americans and potentially sunset programs like Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security.
Sounds like cutting Medicare and Social Security.
Well, it's certainly putting it up for grabs.
Well, John, that's, of course, the Democrat talking points. It's a 11-step
No, it's in the plan. It's in the plan.
But here's this thing about reality for a second. First off, let's talk about Medicare.
But Senator, hang on.
John.
It's not a Democratic talking point. It's in the plan.
I have articulated principles in the course of my campaign that I think are important. And it's very important for those who've retired to recognize that nothing is going to change when it comes to Social Security. And it's very important for those who are near retirement to understand nothing will change. But for the sake of our younger workers, for the sake of younger Americans, we must be willing to address this problem. And I think it's vital to consider allowing younger workers on a voluntary basis set aside some of their own payroll tax and personal accounts as part of a comprehensive solution.
A worker at his or her option ought to be allowed to put some of their own money in a private savings account, an account that they call their own.
As we fix Social Security, we also have the responsibility to make the system a better deal for younger workers. And the best way to reach that goal is through voluntary personal retirement accounts.
I was a part of it when George W. Bush proposed Social Security reform in 2005. The time has come for us to have the kind of leadership that says to everyone that's got hair the same color as me, nothing's going to change for you. To give younger Americans better choices that would also be better for the country, I think is an idea whose time has come. There's a way back. There are modest reforms in entitlements that can be done without disadvantaging anybody at the point of the need.
Doubt it.
And actually, I think the day could come when we can replace the New Deal with a better deal. Look, we all know where the real issue is in terms of long-term debt for the United States, and that is that while I respect the Speaker's commitment to take Social Security and Medicare off the table for the debt ceiling negotiations, we've got to put them on the table in the long term.
67% saying Medicaid unacceptable to cut, Social Security 77% to cut. I mean, doesn't that show you that people are justifiably angry about this and they don't want to cut?
Oh, yeah, they are. Now, my own personal opinion is that most of this stuff is all unconstitutional, all that, but that's not going to come about because we don't live in that age.
You're running for president, and you just said Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security are all unconstitutional. So if you become president, would you phase those programs out?
When I go to the college campuses and I get large crowds out, I say, do you think you're going to get anything out of Medicare and Social Security? They say, no. I says, I'd let you out. Just get out of the program. Opt out.
So you would phase it out.
Restore your freedom. Demand your rights to take care of yourself.
So if you became president, you would transition completely out of Social Security and Medicare.
Agree. Yeah, that would be my program, is to transition out, because this one has failed and you're going to have riots in the streets. The food riots will come.
So I put forward a proposal that will gradually increase the age, lower the cost of living increase slightly.
Now, Vice President Biden and lawmakers in Congress are currently debating the debt limit increase. Why do you want Social Security to be part of that discussion?
Because you can't really make the reforms that would bring down this horrendous $14 trillion debt.
Social Security has nothing to do with the deficit.
Republicans, of course, have been chomping at the bit to dismantle Social Security. Just this year, they proposed legislation to raise the retirement age, privatize Social Security, and cut benefits. They've even argued to cut benefits and use the extra money to pay off the debt. Now, let me be clear. Social Security hasn't contributed one dime to the debt. In fact, it has a $2.5 trillion surplus. Now, anyone who tells you otherwise is a flat-out liar. But of course, they're banking that you don't know that, which is why they're pushing for Social Security cuts to be part of those debt ceiling negotiations. Senator Kay Bailey Hutchinson said just last night, quote, "I don't think we can wait, and I do think it should be part of the overall debate on raising the debt limit." Now, that's an absurd idea, but it turns out Hutchinson and her Republican colleagues are getting paid by the Koch brothers to push this nonsense. Check out this excellent clip explaining how from Brave New Films.
What the Koch brothers want to do is destroy Social Security, because Social Security is a federal government program that has been enormously successful. The Koch brothers are funding think tanks and other organizations which are spreading an enormous amount of disinformation about Social Security. They are very, very good in getting on television.
Raising the retirement age.
I would increase the retirement age.
You would probably have to increase the retirement age.
The real risk is Social Security running out of money.
Social Security going bankrupt.
Social Security already bankrupt.
Social Security is going bankrupt. I like the idea of personal accounts.
The option of investing 1/3 of their Social Security payroll taxes into personal retirement accounts.
The Koch brothers' job is to do everything they can to dismember government in general. And if you could destroy Social Security, you will have gone a long way forward in that effort.
And the Kochs have put phenomenal resources into that. And again, they're very smart about where they invest and how they invest. And they don't just put all their money in a few ads for politicians. In fact, there was a great line in Jane Mayer's article about the Kochs. They said, politicians read from a script. They want to write the script.
You had an opportunity to really lay out your economic plan. More importantly, you were tackling the third rail of politics, which was Social Security and raising the retirement age.
My question is, how would you specifically reform Social Security to ensure it is on stable ground for future generations?
Well, Don, thank you for that question. It is an incredibly important question. With regard to Social Security, I think we should follow 4 principles. Number 1, for seniors, for those at retirement or near retirement, there should be no changes whatsoever. We have made promises. People have ordered their financial affairs counting on those promises. We need to honor those promises to the letter. But for younger workers, you know, I'm 44 years old. It is hard to find someone, my generation, who thinks Social Security will be there for us. That presents a real opportunity to reform it now for future generations. And how can we do that? Number 1, for younger workers, we should gradually increase the retirement age to recognize that people are living longer and give people time to plan their financial affairs to anticipate a later retirement age under Social Security. Number 2, we should change the rate of growth in benefits of Social Security so that it matches inflation rather than exceeding inflation. Those 2 changes together bring Social Security into solvency. But then the third piece, and I think this is critically important, for younger workers, we ought to allow them to keep a portion of their tax payments in a personal account that they own, that they control.
But we need to look over the horizon and begin to phase in over an extended period of time, going from 65 to 68 or 70. And that by itself will help sustain the retirement system for anybody under the age of 40.
But you also have to bring spending under control, and not discretionary spending. That isn't the driver of our debt. The driver of our debt is the structure of Social Security and Medicare for future beneficiaries. We still have time, not just to save those programs, but responsibly structure them in a way that doesn't impact current retirees or people about to retire, but in a way that would probably impact it for me and people younger than me.
So I would embrace proposals, like Paul Ryan offered and other people have offered that are going to, provide some market forces in there, more consumer choice. Me getting Social Security at 65 or 67, if I'm going to live, into my 80s, is probably not sustainable.
Your instincts on this one. And with regard to Social Security, we will not privatize it. If we had listened to Romney, Governor Romney, and the congressman during the Bush years, imagine where all those seniors would be now if their money had been in the market. We just did one thing. If they just allow Medicare to bargain for the cost of drugs like Medicaid can, that would save $156 billion right off the bat. We will be no part of a voucher program or the privatization of Social Security.
You were one of the few lawmakers to stand with President Bush when he was seeking to partially privatize Social Security.
For younger people, what we said then, and what I've always agreed, is let younger Americans have a voluntary choice of making their money work faster for them within the Social Security system. That's not what Mitt Romney's proposing. What we're saying is no changes for anybody 55 and above.
What Mitt Romney is proposing.
And then the kinds of changes we're talking about for younger people like myself is don't increase the benefits for wealthy people as fast as everybody else. slowly raise the retirement age over time.
The idea of changing, and change being in this case to cut the benefits for people without taking other action you could do to make it work, is absolutely the wrong way. These guys haven't been big on Medicare from the beginning. Their party's not been big on Medicare from the beginning, and they've always been about Social Security, as little as you can do. Look, folks, use your common sense. Who do you trust on this? You are jeopardizing the program. You're changing the program from a guaranteed benefit to premium support, whatever you call it. The bottom line is people are going to have to pay more money out of their pocket, and the families I know and the families I come from, they don't have the money to pay more.
That's why
it's a legal Ponzi scheme.
Yes.
You know, I got accused in 2010 that I called it a Ponzi scheme. I admitted it. Yes, it's a legal Ponzi scheme.
What they need to be doing is looking at entitlements. Look at Social Security. Look at Medicaid. Look at Medicare. Look at these things, and let's actually go to the heart of what's causing government to grow.
So you're raising the age of retirement.
You know, that's interesting that you asked that question. People come up to me, they actually don't work on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's on the table, you're saying?
Well, you know, if people want to work on it, maybe you need to give them an incentive to do it.
Republicans
want Medicare and Social Security to sunset. I'm not saying it's a majority. Let me give you, anybody who doubts it, contact my office. I'll give you a copy. I'll give you a copy of the proposal. That means Congress doesn't vote. Well, I'm glad to see you. And I tell you, I enjoy conversion. You know, it means if Congress doesn't keep the programs the way they are, they'd go away. Other Republicans say, I'm not saying it's a majority of you. I don't even think it's even a significant, but it's being proposed by individuals. I'm not politely not naming them, but it's being proposed by some of you. Look, folks, as we all apparently agree, Social Security and Medicare is off the books now, right? They're not to be stopped. All right. I'm ready. We got unanimity. I don't know who they think they are. We saw on Tuesday night Republicans don't like me being called out on this. They were not very happy with me pointing this out. I know that a lot of Republicans, their dream is to cut Social Security and Medicare. Well, let me say this. If that's your dream, I'm your nightmare.
What's going on with the debt?
It's very disturbing, and it's driven by the three big entitlement programs that are very popular: Medicare, Social Security, and Medicaid.
Social Security has nothing to do with the deficit. Social Security is totally funded by the payroll tax levied on employer and employee.
That's 70% of what we spend every year. The subject we were just discussing, the funding of the government, is about 30% of what we spend.
If you reduce the outgo of Social Security, that money would not go into the general fund to reduce a deficit. It would go into the Social Security Trust Fund. So Social Security has nothing to do with balancing a budget or erasing or lowering the deficit.